What is stream entry? What is the first stage of awakening? Is it real? What does it do for you? How do you get there? If you're watching this video, it means that you're somewhat going through the process of spiritual awakening and you're curious about stream entry. And so was I around 15 years ago. And so in this video, we're going to discuss what is stream entry, how to get there, what are the challenges, and what does it do for you. And so if you think that sounds interesting, keep on watching. Let's get started with this video, shall we? The first thing to understand when it comes to stream entry is that we can either take the path of insight or the path of serenity. The path of insight means that we straight away in our meditation practice start exploring the different phenomenological parts of our experience and breaking them down into their parts. So thoughts, feelings, body sensations, we straight away start focusing on the body and the mind. And the path of serenity is actually going to deeper and deeper states of calm and deep meditation before engaging in the work of insight. This topic could be discussed for hours, and so I'm not going to spend so much time talking about the difference between the path of serenity and the path of insight, because I have a lot of experience in the path of insight, but not so much in the path of serenity. And so let's move on. The second thing to understand about stream entry is that this is the first permanent shift in your experience that lasts. And so before attaining stream entry, you may make a lot of progress in your spiritual practice. However, if you stop practicing, this is usually going to backtrack. And so stream entry is the first time that a permanent switch is flipped in your own mind and it has a certain deeper effect on your own psyche and your own energetic body. So what is actually mostly eradicated after stream entry is self-view, and that is the view that we have a permanent, lasting, separate self. And while the feeling of having a permanent, lasting self, or the illusion thereof, remains, the view and the understanding that this does not exist remains. That means that after having a very deep experience into the selfless nature of reality, we are unable to fully buy in or fully believe this illusion of self. This is what actually happens after stream entry. And so stream entry inevitably leads forward, and this is why it's called stream entry, because the Buddha said that stream entry is basically a person who enters the stream that leads to permanent awakening. However, stream entry is just the first stage, and while it is a very rare, let's say, stage of awakening, it is just the first of many. And so it inevitably leads to full awakening, but it is definitely not a full awakening experience. Another thing that most people report after stream entry is access to deeper states of meditation. And so before stream entry, when you sit to meditate, you may experience a lot of difficulty concentrating, a lot of hindrances, while after stream entry, those may remain sometimes. In general, access to deeper states of meditation instantly is usually the case for many people. Another very important thing to understand about stream entry is that dukkha remains, and that means that life has its inevitable sufferings of body, sufferings of mind, and there's a whole list of these different aspects of dukkha in our life. The fact that everything keeps changing, the fact that we cannot hold to anything. This thing, as dukkha, part of life, remains after stream entry. And so having certain delusions that attaining the first or many stages of awakening is going to eradicate the unsavory parts of life is simply unrealistic. And so stream entry actually gives one a deeper understanding of suffering, a deeper understanding and experience of dukkha. And it's important to understand that we are still surely human. After having even the first stage or later stage of awakening, you still remain human. You're still going to have your own psychological makeup, your own psychological issues, your own issues with relationships, with money, with yourself. There's so many ways to develop yourself as a being, and awakening is one of those ways of developing yourself. And while awakening and the first stage of awakening may help you to develop yourself further in many ways, and it may give many benefits when it comes to your life, it does not resolve the basic fact that you're an imperfect human with certain conditioning from the past, certain traumas, certain difficulties. And while the first stage of awakening is a beautiful thing that I definitely wish upon anybody who wants to attain it, it does not solve the basic problem of being human. And that's important to understand, because I remember that when I went on my own 5-month silent retreat journey, I think I had certain unrealistic expectations of how attaining this stream entry is going to help resolve all of my difficulties with life. And while it definitely helped, and I'm extremely grateful for all the efforts that I put into it, There's a lot of other inner work that I then continue to do after all this meditation practice. So my own journey began when I was 20 years old. I went on a 10-day silent meditation retreat, and so from the beginning of my practice until what I interpret as stream entry, it took around 8 years and many, many months on silent retreat in a particular tradition called the Mahasi Sayadaw tradition. However, there are many ways of doing spiritual practice, many ways to awaken, and the type in which I'm discussing here is just one of those to which I was attracted and I can speak a lot about. And so if you're attracted to more non-dual teachings, if you're attracted to other types of practice, that's great. I'm only talking about stream entry from my own experience and from my own traditional practice. And so let's discuss what is the path to stream entry for this first stage of awakening if you would like to attain it. So let's get into that. So one of the best ways that I've found to attain stream entry is turning subject into object in a continuous way. And that means that when we sit to meditate, when we're doing our spiritual practice, whether you're sitting with closed eyes or going about your day, it's about noticing how different aspects that you take as yourself are inevitably led into being an object, an observed object. That means that if you're observing your thought arising and passing, that is not you. If you're observing your fear, that is not you. And so many, many more aspects of yourself that are currently in the subject side are then turned into object. And so as long as you can observe something, by definition it is not you. And so as you continuously do this more and more, different aspects of what you call yourself are turned into an object that you can observe. And this happens again and again and again. And there are many different layers of yourself that get revealed throughout this process. And this process is definitely not smooth nor always enjoyable. So basically it starts when a person begins to be able to notice that they can observe thoughts and body sensations in a detached way. Before that, the person is completely immersed and identified with their own experience. Once you do this in a more microscopic way, comes what people call Kundalini awakening. Kundalini awakening is a very tricky experience because it comes with a lot of fireworks and bliss and feelings of having arrived, feeling awakened. However, this is just the first of many, many, many stages. So many people get stuck in this Kundalini awakening, thinking that they are already awakened. However, this is just the very beginning, and it tends to basically inflate people's spiritual ego. The way to get to this Kundalini awakening experience is usually by having a very microscopic view of your experience. So starting to really turn a lot of subject into object, more subject into object. After that comes usually the dark night of the soul. So these are very deep experiences of suffering, of grief, of starting to realize how much suffering we really contain within ourselves, how much suffering exists in the world, different ways of noticing how dukkha, or how suffering is manifesting internally and externally. And the way to explore this particular parts of the spiritual path are by learning how to surrender to the suffering, how to really embrace the darker aspects of your experience that we always try to push away, how to explore this suffering, how to have a curious attitude, really embrace every negative or painful experience and starting to really allow yourself to come closer to those painful experiences of suffering and to learn how to accept suffering and not always try to push it away. And usually after every wave of this dark night of the soul comes a lot more wisdom. So these are usually the lessons that people use in order to progress beyond this dark night of the soul. So after that begin to arise the equanimity stages. Equanimity is the exact opposite of this dark night of the soul. However, it's a lot more calm than the Kundalini awakening. There's not so many fireworks. People just report having very calm, peaceful mind, beginning to have a more expanded awareness, beginning to notice how everything is arising within this vast space of consciousness. And this can also deepen into high equanimity stages. In these stages, there can be some visual changes to your perception. You may be able to sit for many, many hours in meditation. And these are very beautiful experiences of equanimity if you are lucky enough to have practice until this point. And the lessons of equanimity are usually to stay present, even though when the mind is calm, you don't feel like practicing, you may drift into different types of daydreams. You really have to stay present during these stages and begin to expand your awareness more and more and more to include more aspects of what you call yourself. These can be included in your awareness, so different types of expectation, different types of projection about these experiences, attachment to even the state of equanimity itself. And learn to enjoy this beautiful expanded experience as the different factors of awakening begin to arise more and more in your experience. begin to really enjoy and embrace, expand your awareness as much as you can to include every aspect of your experience. And after that usually come the experience of stream entry. So stream entry is not a particular experience, it's usually a non-experience. It's experienced a little bit as a reboot in your consciousness. And so after that, usually we cycle through these stages again and again in our life. However, this video is not designed to give you a very comprehensive technical description of stream entry, because I believe that practical experience is most important. And some of the most important things to say about stream entry, as I said, is that it requires a lot of practice usually, that it's not going to solve all of your human problems, and lastly, that it's very important to work with skilled teachers who can help you see some of your blind sides. Many people in this world believe that they can do it all themselves, they don't trust anybody else, and actually it is other people. When we allow ourselves to open to the feedback of others, when we begin to acknowledge that we may benefit from the help of other people, other perspectives, other teachers, then we can make a lot more progress in our life and in our spiritual practice. But me personally, what I have found is that finding teachers who are more human, as opposed to having some ideals of perfection, the perfect guru, people who don't reveal to you all the different human struggles that they experienced or continue to experience, in my experience and in my opinion, is not very helpful on the spiritual path. And so I hope this video about stream entry has been useful to you. If you want more of my help, you can click some of the links below. You can schedule a free consultation with me, or you can join my free Telegram group, or you can get my free Balance of Mind training, and I'll speak to you soon.